establish the equivalence with cash. And there is a huge difference there. For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also, we will have the technology to enforce that. Those two issues are extremely important, and that makes a huge difference with respect to what cash is.
Happy Bitcoin Tuesday, freaks. It's your boy, Matt Odell, here for another episode of Citadel Dispatch. Thank you all for joining us once again. You're the ones who make Bitcoin Tuesday what it is. Citadel Dispatch, the interactive live show about Bitcoin for Bitcoiners. This is episode 14, block 675, 990. I'm joined here by Andre Neves and Sputnik. We're going to call him Khan for the rest of this episode. I'm very excited to have both these guys here. We will be focused mostly on Lightning and its interaction with the video game world. I'm pretty excited about this. I think it's going to be a killer conversation. Before I get there, that clip you heard in the beginning, if you're joining us via audio only through our podcast feeds, was Augustin Karstens of the Bank of International Settlements. Apparently, this is a bank that I don't think anyone really knows exists unless you're a Bitcoiner, and then we're obsessed with it. But it's like a bank of banks. And that was a clip from October 2020 where he basically laid out the plan to get rid of cash so that they can track us with their like totalitarian stable coins, which they like calling now CBDCs. It's like they just like to have nomenclature there. So, I mean, that's just it surfaced this week on Bitcoin Twitter. It seemed a pretty obvious talking point, and I just wanted to surface that here on the show for you freaks. As you know, if you're a return freak, you're able to access this show via Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. That's all live on Tuesdays at 2100 UTC. You can also access it via our two podcast feeds, whether that's the Tales from the Crypt feed or the dedicated Citadel Dispatch feed. You just search those in your favorite podcast apps. We're also now on Sphinx Chat, which is a lightning-powered everything application that allows you to chat with encryption and also stream sats while listening to podcasts. There's a Tales from the Crypt tribe in there and also a dedicated Citadel Dispatch tribe. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do with the dedicated Citadel Dispatch tribe yet, but I think we can think up some fun things there. And on that vein as well, and you can go to tribes.sphinx.chat to look those up. We have about 20 freaks over 20 freaks in the Citadel Dispatch one and over 400 in the Tales from the Crypt one. So cheers to that, to all the freaks that are already in there. Yeah, so with all that said, I'd like to introduce our great guests that we have today, our great guest hosts. I hope you guys came prepared with some good questions for us, and I hope they came ready to answer them. I guess we'll start with Khan. Khan, how's it going over there?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk about Lightning and gaming, which has followed me for, I think, over 2 years now. So I think there's a lot you can ask us, and I'm excited.
I failed a little bit as a host. Khan is the founder of Donner Lab. Andre is the CTO of Zebedee. Both of them are focused on introducing sats into gaming directly. and that is why they're here. So Andre, what's up? How's it going?
Hello. Hey, Matt. Constantine, thanks for having me, man. It's awesome to be here. Big fan of the show, so.
Cool. To the new freaks that are here and to our guests on the screen, we have on the top we have the Evil Empire price, we have the Coinbase Pro price, and on the bottom we have the proper free market. We have BISC. So there you go. So with all that said, I figure I don't really know how to start this conversation, and I feel like the best way to start it is esports. We've seen esports absolutely take off over the last 5 years. It's become a global sensation. I'm curious, where do you guys stand on that movement as a whole? Forget about Bitcoin for a second. How do you feel about where esports is currently?
So I don't know. My experience with esports is I really like watching it. So I think I watch it weekly or bi-weekly, and for the last 8 years now. So I'm a really big fan of Dota 2, for example. I watch a lot of CSGO, and I think esports is pretty cool. It showcases like very high skill in sports, and I don't know if you see what player bases are in Counter-Strike, for example, and how good these players were getting in the last years. I think it's really awesome to watch, and how this evolved on Twitch and everything. I think the industry is super interesting.
Yeah, my take on esports is that it's, in my opinion, currently the biggest driver of the gaming industry, right? It's 10% growth year over year for the past decade, and I think over the last 5, 6, 7 years, esports has really been the leading factor there. And so there's really just one aspect of esports that I'm not a huge fan, and it's the notion of only the best of the best can ever reach that level. It's similar to any sort of sports competition, right? You're only if you're the best, are you going to be in the Olympics, World Cups, and so forth. But I think in video games we can, because it's all cloud-based, we can actually provide the ability for esports to be more available to a larger audience that isn't, a larger active audience, right? That isn't just participating by watching. So I think that's really the only thing. But otherwise, I also have Twitch running on the background all the time, whether it's coding in a meeting or something. So yeah, a big fan of watching CSGO, especially since our release.
I mean, I think that is like something that has been channeled by any gamer out there ever. Right. I mean, that is not like top 100 in the world, right? It's like you're watching one of these tournaments, or you're watching some of the professional streamers, and you're like, I wish I could be a part of this competition, but I'm just so far away from even being close to that.
Yeah, and the money that goes in there is insane. If you look at it, it's so top heavy, like Andre was saying.
Yeah. It's amazing how we have two, not to dox anyone, but we have 2 mods in the Infuse CSGO team that help us, managing the servers and so forth. And they're just on a whole other level. They're so insanely good. And they're not even, at anywhere near the level that some of these guys play at esports. So 2 of them were global elites in CS:GO and played in ECSA and all these things. And they're like, no, I'm not even close. I'm not even nearly close. So there's still a big discrepancy between the top of the top 1%, right? The 0.1% and the 1%. So it's really something that's more or less unachievable to your general gamer. Which I wish that was the only difference here.
And then meanwhile, we have like a 14-year-old winning like $1 million, the Fortnite championships, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's yeah.
It's interesting to me. Games, go on.
The cool thing about games is you can train every day, all day, right? And this is what they do. So the top players have achieved such a mastery, which you cannot see in other sports, I think, because you're restrained by your physical tiredness, for example.
Well, there's definitely, I mean, in all sports, there's a peak age, right? And there's a peak age, and it's usually between when you get strong enough versus when you get too old, right? And I feel like the peak age for every competitive sport except maybe like gymnastics or something. Like it's got to be gaming. Esports has to be like one of the lowest peak ages. Like immediately your reflexes just fucking start dying once you pass like 16 years old.
Yeah, that's true, but I think there are also big strategic esports, right? Like Dota 2, for example, has a lot of old players who are captains. Or old, they are like 32 or something. So
Right. It's a reflex versus a reflex game like Fortnite. I guess Fortnite is different. So esports, it's almost unfair for us to. Fortnite's one of the big growing ones now, or I guess it was at least for a while there, and it's kind of unfair to group everything in together, right? Like there's such different variations across the esports landscape.
It's the same as bundling all sports together, right? It's saying, you know, all sports are great. It's like, well, there's so many different types and flavors. Yeah, I think there's definitely clear types when it comes to esports around like FPS, right? So you got like Valorant, CS:GO, and Fortnite, and all these. Well, I guess Fortnite is a little different, but you've got these FPS heavy, and then you've got your MMORPGs or you know, you're related to Dota 2 and things like that, which are a little bit more strategy heavy. I think for the FPS games, the younger crowd dominates it, and yeah, we had, not to get too off topic, but we had some people participating in Mincock's tournament, and it was like a 15-year-old took the prize. You know, he just like was the best one by far. Like he just won it all. So yeah, it's the new generation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how common it is, but I'm a weird gamer in that I'm like first person shooters and I'm like Civilization, which is like completely, it's like the farthest variations of gaming possible.
Yeah, we have.
Sometimes you need to own some noobs, and sometimes you want to chill and just get wrecked by Gandhi.
We have a weekly game night at Zebedee, and the first few nights we played Age of Empires 2, and it's just such a classic. And the whole time I was like, what if this entire economy was based in sats? Wouldn't that be awesome? And so like the imagination goes wild when we're playing these games, right?
Well, I mean, this has been I grew up gaming and I grew up playing first person shooters. And as soon as I discovered Bitcoin, my immediate thing was, I want to kill someone and get paid sats. And I want, when they kill me, I want to lose sats. And actually at that time, I hadn't matured as a Bitcoiner yet. And I want to get paid Bitcoin, and I wasn't even at sats yet. So it was right before that. And I was like, I think like some kid in the other side of the world should be able to spawn camp me and take my money. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have both of you guys on this is the first conversation we've really had centered around gaming, is because, you know, and it makes sense, like in a new space, and we saw it with specifically with Zebedee. You start small with the types of games you do, but right now both of you guys have real first-person shooters experiences where you literally, when you kill someone, you take their sats. I know there's a little bit more nuance there, specifically with Bitcoin Bounty Hunt. But you want to talk a little bit about the mechanics there, about how that changes one of these. I mean, I want to start with Andre, because Andre, you specifically, sure, you guys have this new product, Infuse, right? And you took Counter-Strike Go, which is like practically like the open source equivalent of first person shooters, because there's just insane amounts of mods you can do to it. And you infuse sats into it. It's like the OG first person. This game is held up since we were little kids and we were playing it, right? This game is still almost exactly the same. Yeah, that's crazy. That's fucking insane. 99, is that what you said?
Yeah, that's when I think Counter-Strike 1.0 was 99, right? And then the 1.6 was around 2002, 3. I may be wrong.
Right. So that's insane. Okay, so in the 90s, this game came out, and it basically has held up, right? How do you think adding sats to a game like that has changed the dynamics of that game?
So maybe I can start just by giving a very quick brief on Infuse. You were asking about like how it works and the layer around it, and then I'll touch on the change in dynamics and gameplay. So Infuse at its core is really just a set of parts in a system that allow us to inject or infuse sats into a game. Like you were saying, CS:GO specifically, because one, it still has 20 million active players a month, which is insane, and it's been going on for 20 years. It's still the crop of what's the expression, like cream of the crop when it comes for FPS shooters, right? So it made sense. We have a lot of users. It made sense to be a game to infuse. Specifically, the first version that we had, which is this tournament mode, is you basically you're staking some sats. You're saying, hey, let's put in 500 sats each, and then whoever is the best player takes the biggest part of the pot. So it's divided equally between your scores in the game. So I think initially the goal was just to, can this be done, right? Is this feasible? There's a lot of ideation and imagination, and this is great, this is awesome, let's make it work. But you don't really see it until you build it. And when we made it work, I remember Chris Mandelduck, who was also a co-founder at Zebedee, he built the initial prototype, and we didn't believe him. And then he brought it up, saying, no, let's do it in a game night. So everyone got together. And then he's like, I put sats into CS:GO, and then that's where Infuse came up. And so I think in general, what we've seen is there's a lot more notion of skin in the game is very, very real. People get angry when they lose and they want to play again, and so they stake more sats because they're like, screw you, why are you taking my sats away? And they just keep going and going. So it definitely has added a layer of competitiveness that isn't there necessarily when you're just playing CS:GO normally, because I think it's very it's frictionless, right? You die and you respawn, or you wait to the end of the match and then you respawn again. So there's very little cost, or both from a monetary standpoint, but also from a mental cost. You're just sitting, you're waiting, you're watching the game, and then you play again. When you have skin in the game, when you have sats, it really changes. It seems like people are much more not only into the game, but interested and want to participate and want to come back and want to win more. And especially the ones that have been losing, there's now that drive to make up that sats, those sats that they've lost, right? So they come back, and unfortunately some keep losing, right? Because that's the reality of it. A lot of people are not that great, and a lot of people are really good. So that's the first version of Infuse. I think we can talk a little bit more later about the new game modes we have coming up. But that's what we've seen in terms of dynamics, right? It changes a bit of the incentive structures of the game. It's still CS:GO at its core, but now you have the added competitive aspect in there. Like I have some money on the line, even though it's cents and $1, $2, $5. But that starts there, and then you can go as big as we want, right? We can do 1 million sats games if we wanted to. It's just there's not that many good players willing to put that much money yet. So that's what we've seen on our side. I don't know if Khan has things on Bitcoin Bounty Hunt. I think he has some different incentives in the games as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think our game is a little bit different, because for you it was harder, right? So you needed to tack on the Lightning element, the Bitcoin element, where we build it from the ground up to include Bitcoin. So our game works in a way where there we have these maps. It's a deathmatch game mode. You run around and collect these bounty cubes, is what we call them. And this increases your bounty, and when another person kills you, then you drop your bounty and they can collect them. And then at the end of the round, your bounty gets converted to earnings. So the gameplay is really centered around these sats, and these sats have an in-game presence. It's a little bit different. And from skin in the game is because our players do not pay anything, right? So we're just a very sophisticated Bitcoin faucet, is how I would describe.
So I mean, I want to get into that in a second, because I think that is one of the coolest elements of. I mean, you just created a whole different incentive structure and business model there as well. But before we get into that, I just wanted to. I'm just curious if you guys agree with me here. My thesis that I'm running with, as both a lifelong gamer and a Bitcoiner, is that once we start adding sats into these games, and I think it's cool that you guys, that we have both of you on here, because you're coming at it from two different angles, right? Like the Infused product is super cool because you're setting up a way for you know, maybe like if we dream big, like an Epic or someone coming along and being like, we just want to partner with you guys and just throw it right into a big game. But the thesis for a while has always been that challenger games are going to come in and they're going to try and make a name for themselves. And that's where like Bitcoin Bounty Hunt comes in. But anyway, my thesis is that once we start adding sats into games, it becomes almost like now that people know you can have sats in the game, you can have skin in the game, why would you ever play without sats? It's like I would never spend any time playing poker without money. I just wouldn't even consider it. It's so boring without money. Is that what's going to happen here with gaming without like competitive gaming or semi-competitive gaming, amateur competitive gaming without sats?
I will start with the view that no, I don't know, because I think skill differences are one thing. It's very hard to balance games, and then it can be frustrating. And you already have like progression mechanics which might encourage you to play, but sats are better, I guess. But another thing is simply that games are buggy, games are glitchy, games can be hacked, and poker is like, it's hard to do that, right? It has defined rules, so I think there's another element of uncertainty in games which might discourage from having sats everywhere, for example.
Well, I mean, it's not that. I mean, online poker has similar concerns, right? That has dominated them for years. That people are like, how do you make it provably fair? How do you know that the house isn't screwing you?
And you have AIs playing better than any player.
You have people controlling like 4 of the seats of 5 seats on an online poker table, stuff like that.
That's true.
Yeah. My take on that is, I think there will always be, games that don't have sats, or versions of the same games that have sats that don't have sats. I think once the cat is out of the bag and we move from a place where we're, infusing sats into games and we're seeing, AAA studios wanting to place bets into like putting sats into the game, right? Like, look, let's make it part of our core fabric of this game. I think that will change. Once we go over that hurdle, I think it's more of a we have this in-game currency that is necessarily it's totally interoperable with any other service, wallet, game, or anything that speaks this language. It's kind of like we can just create a new browser as long as it speaks HTTP, right? Like we don't need to figure out the rest. That's super oversimplifying here, but if you're a game developer and you're seeing, and this is now the status quo, right? Which is now you can put Bitcoin into games. I think the users will want to have Bitcoin into games because it changes the idea of like the value that you put into a game can now return to you after you've put that value in. So as a 15 and 14-year-old, I would spend hundreds of hours playing games. I'm sure both of you as well. I would even lie to friends of mine being like, yo, I can't make it tonight. I have my aunt's birthday or something. And they would come back and be like, I thought you said that was yesterday, right? Because I would lie about it just so I can stay at home and playing games. Imagine if all of that time that you put into it, you could see some return. We're not talking 100% of the same return, but we're talking you're not just endlessly putting that value out there, and it's only one direction, right? So I think like I was saying, once the cat is out of the bag, I think there will be a drive and there will be demand for those. But I don't think sats fit into every single gameplay period. Like you can't just inject sats into a game. I think adding money to a game changes the mechanics. I don't think it's that easy, right? And even with CSGO, we can't just like, does it make sense, for example, to change the money in CSGO, the money that you buy guns with, right? And weapons and so forth. Should we make those the sats, or do we make the health the sats? Like, what, you need to really think about the dynamics. Just shoving sats into it, I don't know that makes it a better game. But I agree. I think in general, we're moving in that direction. I would like to see the future is definitely, going to be sats heavy, and there's just too many benefits, right? It's interoperable. And I think that in and of itself is a big one.
Well, we're already seeing games throw in. I mean, Khan said this earlier. We're already seeing games throw in like different incentive structures to try and to basically hit that nerve ending that you have like skin in the game. But usually it's just in these complete walled gardens that are just so much worse than something like sats. And I mean, the perfect example of multiple, like I always go back to Fortnite, because Fortnite is a perfect example of a ton of different things in modern gaming. The first and most important, I would say, is that it shows how like gamers are motivated as fuck. Gamers are motivated consumers that love what they do and have very low switching costs. They will go to whatever is hot. They will go to whatever is new, whatever they think is fun and exciting, and they will move over there. And it'll happen quicker than anyone will ever expect. And Fortnite is a perfect example because you had this move to Battle Royale out of nowhere. Battle Royale was like a brand new format, and all of a sudden it dominated the whole game space. And to the freaks that don't know, it's this idea when you drop, like 100 people into a closed arena, and the last man standing wins. Which, by the way, is like perfect for a SATS grand prize. But anyway, and then the other thing they did was they made it so it was free to play on every major platform, that it was cross-platform on every major platform. These are things that didn't exist before for a AAA game. This idea that you could play with a PlayStation person from Xbox or PC or even Wii or whatever, or Switch. And then, so they added that, and then their monetization is their shitcoin, is like V-Bucks, right? And then it has you can buy skins and all this different stuff that doesn't change the mechanics of the game. It doesn't make you any better at the game, but it makes your character look cool. And they're making hundreds of millions of dollars or tons of money off of basically using this shitcoin. Yeah, billion. Is that what you said? Billions?
Yeah, I think it was $2 billion at the peak of 2018.
Yeah, they're making billions of dollars because people are buying and earning this closed loop shitcoin and buying skins that don't change any of the mechanics of the game except how they look. And the whole game is free otherwise. Besides, I guess, subscriptions to make it easier to earn. But like, so this idea, right? So go on. Yeah.
I was just going to say, and the main issue with that is like, with any altcoin, you can sell it. You can always sell it. It's at a loss, fine, you sell it and you get dollars back. V-Bucks is a one direction thing. It's the same as buying Steam games. It's like you put the dollars in there. You can't say like, oh, I have, $50 in Steam. Let me like bring this back into my hands. Like you don't really get to do that. You have to use it in the ecosystem that they provide. So it's even worse than your shitcoins because you can't sell it, right? You can't like get rid of it. You have to find a secondary market to then, somehow sell a skin to someone else that, this and that. So it's a form of keeping that closed garden, right, that you were talking about. It's we give them a little bit to suck them in, but it's always one direction. It's never back into the user, back into the player, which I think can change quite a bit by just introducing sats into this.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with that you want to remove the shitty diamonds from mobile games, but I think it's a predatory tactic, right? It's not like they would like to do something else. So the game developers, so I think this needs to be challenged by new games coming to the scene.
But this is so. You're gonna love our transition, Khan. So this is why I'm super bullish on Bitcoin Bounty Hunt, because it's a whole new format. It's an idea that no one had really considered before, and it's a very novel format. So do you want to go into how the sats are? Just go through the full dynamics of Bitcoin Bounty Hunt.
So the full dynamics, then I maybe need to like think a bit back, because we created a game before Bitcoin Bounty Hunt, which was okay. The idea was, what is cool, or how can you earn sats while playing games? And our first idea was, okay, you could stream a game and then viewers could could buy you enemies. This was our first idea, which I showcased at a Lightning Hack Day in New York. And it was a cool game, but it was super niche, right? And then we changed it to this auto chess, which was high then in 2018 or 2019. It was super hyped to have auto chesses. So we built that, then nobody could play it. So yeah, then we scratched that game and thought, okay, let's do something everybody can understand. And it was a first-person shooter. And so our goal at Donor Lab is to make Bitcoiners out of no coiners, right? Which is cool and good for everyone. So the idea was, okay, what can we do so that our players can earn sats? And then very quickly we came to the idea that, okay, maybe we can just sell advertising for sats, and then these sats gets distributed to the players. So what we have is we have these in-game banners of advertisers, sponsors, memes, and then this allows us to spawn these sat cubes in games so that our players can earn sats.
Yeah, so I mean, you created a whole new business model that a game publisher can make money off of, right? This idea that you have the advertisers basically are the ones paying you, not the customer, but the customer is still, getting rewarded from those ad dollars. I guess you presumably you take a cut of those ad dollars.
Yeah.
And the cool part to me is that the ad dollars is all like we've been a sponsor. Tales from the Crypt has been a sponsor for I don't even know how long now. And we just scan an invoice. We post like a JPEG. We post our little NFT. It's not an NFT. We post a JPEG. And then I guess you have to approve it to make sure it's not like illicit content or something. And then we put a link, and then we just we keep paying the invoice. And actually anyone can go to bitcoinbountyhunt.com and they can contribute to the Tales from the Crypt ad budget over there. And then that gets divvied out to the players. So a player can't lose any money. But I think it's important to realize here is like every time this stats conversation comes up, we have critics say, there's going to be kids that lose tons of money on your games. And it's like, yeah, that is the status quo already. Like people lose thousands of dollars on games all the time, and they have no path to win money though. Like so a game that allows you to win money and lose money is strictly superior to a game that only allows you to lose money.
I think makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, if I could just add, like Konstantin's like the idea behind the use of sponsors is it basically removes whereas right now advertisers, there's always this third third party, right, that basically is taking the cut. The user, it doesn't see any value, but the user is the one that sees the advertisement, and then someone else is making a cut on that. So really what Konstantin was the first one to enable is it's using the game and the game's mechanics as essentially a medium for advertisers to reach users. So whereas an advertiser is basically saying, look, for your tiny span of attention in this game, for you to see this image on the wall, here's some sats, right? That's basically like if you boil it down to the basics, that's what it is. So advertisers are directly, in a much more direct manner, paying for users attention. And I think that's very powerful because right now the users don't see it. The status quo is the users see nothing of that at all, and only third parties make that. And now with Bitcoin Bounty Hunt, you can see, Tales from the Crypt has definitely sponsored lots of sat cubes that are Satoshis that people have withdrawn from the game and maybe they have bought stuff with, right? And otherwise that wouldn't be possible. So I think, Bitcoin Bounty Hunt is a great example of a brand new model for introducing sats into the game. And I think it's genius. Yeah.
And I think the cool thing also as a player is you connect something positive with the advertiser, right? Because they basically give you money, right? It's not that you view an intrusive ad which annoys you and then you have negative thoughts about the advertiser. With us, it's just, it's in Discord, there's sometimes, it's so cool that you have these advertisers who are basically paying us. And I mean, we have players from all around the world, and
I think it's similar to it's similar to in movies, right? When you see like you're watching a movie and all of a sudden the person is at home in a scene and they open their MacBook, right? Like that's a native advertising where like, Apple must have there was a deal behind there. They're like, okay, you're going to use a Windows machine or a MacBook, and the viewer is actually not getting anything out of this one. But in the game scenario, they are like they're saying, look, you're seeing our advertisements, and here's some sats. Which like the whole point is it's a little bit more native advertising than it is, a pop-up on a web screen, right? It's not invasive. It's not in your face, like, bearing you from taking the best user experience of the product or the game. It's just part of the game. It's native to the game.
One of the funny things about that Apple product placement thing you said is that Apple doesn't allow enemies. It doesn't allow antagonists or bad guys in movies to use Apple products. So anytime you see an Apple product in a movie, it's always like the hero of the movie, which I just thought is Android's for everyone. But but if you use an iPhone, you have to be the hero.
hilarious.
I think it's interesting, this ad model, because as a gamer, I mean, I remember. So first of all, I like that it's tasteful. I like that it's just like billboards. There's like billboards in the game that you're just like running around. They're just static images, which is nice. I like that it does create a positive taste in the consumer because they're getting paid and they get to play the game for free. So you're able to give them. All of a sudden, we're able to give a free game that's doesn't feel predatory, which is really cool. But this idea of in-game ads is interesting to me because I guess on mobile, we have the annoying, horrible, like click through, listen to this video, pop-ups or whatever to get credits or get, cheat codes. It's like, it's just malicious as fuck. But before that existed, I remember on, I think Halo 2 or something, the DLC was like sponsored by like Mountain Dew. Like you got free DLC and you like ran past vending machines and there was just like Mountain Dew vending machines and Mountain Dew billboards everywhere. And the downloadable content was free. And I guess they just didn't make enough money from that. And they just went for like, now it's like, you get like a AAA game and you have to pay them like $40 just to get the extra maps or something. That whole ad model just kind of got thrown out the window. So it's kind of cool that you brought it back.
Yeah, it's very annoying and in mobile games, and I agree. But what like PC or console games? I mean, the FIFA and NBA series are doing a lot of advertising, right?
They do like in-game advertising on the billboards of the FIFA billboards on the soccer field. They have like the classic advertising.
You can't skip the cutscenes anymore in the NBA games. So you need to watch this also advertising at the start of a single player game against a bot, which is super, super ridiculous, I think. If you pay full price for the game, so it's, I don't know how much.
Yeah, and I think just to add another example, not to steal from Konstantin's Bitcoin Bounty Hunt, it was definitely the first one, but Bitcoin Rally is one that we use that Zebedee has built, and it's a little bit more of a proof of concept game that has evolved and is now going to be released for people to host their own tournaments and all these things. It's a Mario Kart like game that has stats in it. And it's really cool because we followed a very similar approach to the Sats advertising model, right? So, but instead of anyone being able to sponsor, we use MintGox, which is we can talk about later, but we use MintGox sponsors in the app, in the game itself. So, for example, BitRefill, which is a great company and great people work there, and they work closely with MintGox, and so they've been sponsoring a handful of our events, and we actually put a BitRefill station, kind of like a gas station inside of the Bitcoin Rally map, where if you pass by it, it's you either go left or right in one of the intersections. If you go right, you pass by the BitRefill station, and you're actually given sats, right? Like you see sats pouring in, and which is awesome. And you see like little coins coming into the cart, which is basically, so BitRefill pays MintGox for the sponsorship deals, and then we place them into the games, and then we give those sats to the users playing the games, and then we definitely know of users who have won, and then go ahead and use it back into BitRefill, for buying cards or buying whatever they need. So through Bitcoin Bounty Hunt, through Bitcoin Rally, and all these games that we're introducing, you can begin to see that notion of like the lightning economy, where you can earn somewhere, spend it somewhere, earn it over here, send it over there, right? And it's all interoperable. So you're talking about a service that sells gift cards worldwide, speaking the same language as the in-game currency of this game, and that was unthinkable 3-4 years ago. So I think it's very powerful that we're able to do stuff like this.
And specifically, I mean, previously we might be able to put like BitRefill gift cards or credit, right? The cool part is that BitRefill can give you sats, and then you could either use it at BitRefill or you can use it at one of their competitors. Or you can pay some random BTC Pay server or something because it's interoperable. Yeah, I actually wanted to bring up that game because I think that's awesome. I fucking love Mario Kart. I didn't know if we were allowed to say the words Mario Kart or not. So I'm glad that you just put that out there. But yeah, Mario Kart to me is a perfect example of why would I ever play Mario Kart with my friends again if we didn't have sats on the line? Why would I ever do that? That is poker without money to me. Would you agree on that statement?
I agree.
Yeah,
if it's readily available, I agree. And similar to poker, it's one of those things where like, okay, if it's 5 people that play a little bit more seriously and they know that they're good, they would be willing to put, $50, $100, whatever it is. And
Right?
if it's people that aren't and they're like, okay, let's just put money just for the sake of having money because it's boring without, but let's put $5 and it's fine. And it would be just as great, right? So the fact that you can go for, as little as 1 Satoshi most of the time, and if Bitcoin grows to $500,000, we can go to millisats, we can always, go lower. So I think we have plenty of room, but I would agree. I think once Bitcoin rallies out, why would you play, Mario Kart without sats, right?
I'm not laughing at Andre. All the freaks are just in the comments making fun of how I pronounced Mario Kart, and now I don't know what's real and what's not. But I 100% would play that game that we were talking about with my boys on like a Friday or a Saturday for $100 each or something, like poker.
Right.
It'd be fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, money
Definitely.
matches with friends are always fun. I don't know. I do it a lot with Super Smash Brothers, and yeah,
Nice. It brings me
that's the
back
best
to
money match game. I think I did a money match with roast beef at the Lightning conference in Berlin, but he was too drunk to
nice.
show up to hungover.
It brings me back to my LAN days, right? I don't know if I imagine you guys went to those, but where I grew up, like we had these LAN houses, right, where you just go and before gaming was online, right, and you had to go to these houses and get all your friends together and so forth, and it just felt much more competitive. It felt much more like you had skin in the game because everyone was around you watching you, and I think this, the addition of sats brings back a little bit of that sentiment there. You were talking about Smash Brothers or Smash Bros, whatever. We have a working. So if you guys remember Reiki, which was a game that Mandelduck built, which is like Street Fighter. Here I go saying the names of the games. It's kind of like it's a fighting game, 2-player fighting game, and we basically, the problem with 2-player fighting games is latency and ping, right? When it's a lot of players, it's fine because there's a lot happening in the game and it's not too faulty. But when you lag 1v1, it's horrible experience. And so we found out that early on that we couldn't really do Mint Gox with Reiki. So we're actually turning it into a Smash Bros style game. We have like an initial V1 going, and we're gonna put a bunch of sats in it. So hopefully over the next few months we can invite some people for early betas and things like that.
That sounds really cool. I'm down to beta test for you, especially if I get sats.
That's another
Definitely.
perfect example. It's almost like the whole like Nintendo lineup of games just gets completely ruined if alternatives are added that have sats.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mario Party
there's
with sats would
branding.
be awesome.
Yeah, there's branding and network effects to go against it, but I think Bitcoin in general is getting a lot of traction, and especially away from the investment aspect of it. I think people are beginning to see the values of the network and what it can enable, new types of interactions that it can enable, apart from just like, oh, it's better money, it's better store of value. It is all those things, but it also is an extremely fast through Lightning. It's extremely fast, extremely cheap network to do microtransactions at scale. And if you apply that to games, the sky's the limit. So I think people are finally beginning to see that Bitcoin as the network is moving forward and enabling all these new things.
I guess my point is I said Nintendo, but I really meant like party games, right? Like so I guess we should dive in now. Like the biggest issue here in terms of online gaming in general has always been, griefing and glitches and like people hacking, oh, hacker got my headshot and stuff. And that obviously gets amplified when you add real money into games. That obviously, if you're playing a party game with friends, that aspect is almost completely removed. Like unless like your friend is spending 40 hours a week trying to figure out what's the next hack of whatever party game you're playing, you're probably going to be fine on that. And in that regard, to me, adding some skin in the game, adding some sats in the game is just a clear net benefit. But when we talk about online and we talk about public access and we talk about opening, the ability for people to be competitive, with gaming to the public and not just like to the top 1%. I mean, that's got to be a major, major headache on your part, no?
So I can just
Yeah.
report we had a lot of hackers already, so it's hard to counter this, and I would say it's almost impossible. I don't know how you feel, Andre, how many hackers you already had.
Yeah. Interesting. Because they're writing new hacks for Bitcoin Bounty Hunt, right? Or I imagine there's general hacks around like aimbots and things, but
Yeah,
they
speed
must
hacks
be
are
writing some
pretty
custom.
simple.
Yeah. So CS:GO is definitely one of the the games that have lots of cheaters, hackers, and all these things. We do all of the quote unquote due diligence, right? We only run VAC secured servers and all the bits and pieces there, but we don't have a custom anti-cheat software like you have in Faceit servers and ECSL and ECSA, ECSEA servers and all these things. So we rely a lot on basically like community. So because we have like a large number of mods to help and oversee the servers, but we've gotten a handful of them. I can't say that we have had too many. What I would say is thus far, what we've seen at least is because currently there is a cost to enter, it sort of removes the incentive right away because one, it's similar to any sort of hacking attack, right? What you're doing is, technically speaking, hacking will always quote unquote be possible, right? It's kind of a given that a system will have a vulnerability at some part and some point. No software is perfect. And so you will always have cheaters, but what we find is when we add these costs, right? It's first of all, it's costly to spend 500 sats to then earn basically nothing, right? If we're doing matches of 1 million sats, I think we will need to have a little bit more knowledge of like who these people are that are putting 1 million sats into the game, because we we'll definitely have moderators watching it, because we can't provide the same sort of oversight that you have in an esports tournament where everyone's in the same room, right? And you're just like looking at the person and you can see their screen and their computer. So I think, but in general, we haven't seen that many, and I think it's because it removes the incentive when you have to put something in. So a lot of our servers are Steam. For CS:GO is it Steam Plus or Premium? Sorry. So you have to pay $15 on Steam to have access to it, and then it has to be a new account, and then you have to put some sats into the game, and then maybe you'll win, right? Let's say you hack it and then you take some. It's not enough yet to drive a large pool of cheaters and hackers, right? So we have not seen that many. I think as it grows and as things progress, we will likely see more. But that's where it's a challenge. Like Constantine was saying, it's a challenge for most online games, and we just need to try our best to remove them and just be forceful. I think if we do our job of making it very costly to cheaters and hackers, they don't have the incentive to come back. Once it's very easy to cheat, then it's fine. They'll keep doing it. So if we find any sort of hacking or cheating or anything, we ban them right away, right? It's now a burden for them. If you want to prove to us that you didn't cheat, like prove to us, show us. But there's no way for us to combat it and say CS:GO is now hacker free, cheat free, because it's just not how it works.
How would they prove to you that they didn't cheat?
So we're actually setting this up now where we are recording all the matches. So basically we're recording matches and we have a whole reporting functionality in Infuse. So at any point in the middle of the game, if someone seems to be cheating, you can go into Infuse, which is an overlay of CS:GO, and you can click a button and say, hey, you choose from the list of players, and you say a little message, right? And that gets sent to, it gets alerted to Zebedee internally as well as the moderators. Hopefully there's someone there to check it out and look at it. But if not, we are beginning to set up, some servers are already set up, but not all, the automatic, recording. So we can go back and say, okay, this time at this player, they cheated. Unfortunately, it's retroactive. It's like post game. So there's it's rare for us to be able to catch them on the act unless there's someone in the match or a moderator ready to watch it. For any bigger matches, you can rest assured that we have people looking and watching it at all players. But for your everyday match, I can't say that that's always the case. So that's where the videos, the recordings come in handy.
Wow,
I
you have all
appreciate.
the tooling from
yeah, go on.
CS:GO, which is pretty cool. So I need to catch them live with my private admin spectator mode, and then are they just lagging or are they really speed hacking? You have it a lot easier. I'm envious, but I think the community approach is probably best. And I think,
Agreed.
when I was playing CS, it was only on community servers with CS Source, is what I was playing mostly, and there was
Exactly.
not a lot of hackers because you always had mods online. I think only
Yep.
matchmaking really made that a problem. Automatic matchmaking with millions of players, which we don't
So-
have. So
Well, you're going to, so you got to get prepared for it. Right now, to the freaks who are watching live, I have our Sphinx chat up in the screen share because I thought this freaks meme was pretty funny because we were a little bit late to start today. So shout out to Satisorian. Freaks, I'm still trying to figure out, where this Sphinx chat is going to fall into place in this show. So if you join the chat, feel free to say different perks that you might want from being in the chat. This show is your show just as much as it's my show, and I'm excited to see where we go with that. But the reason I wanted to bring up Sphinx is because there's an interesting element here. You can set basically a security deposit for people who join. With Marty's case, he runs the Tales from the Crypt tribe. He set it to 100 sats. So every time you send a message, you provide a security deposit of 100 sats for 3 hours. And if he kicks you because you're spamming, he'll take your 100 sats. So there's an interesting element here where people are like, the immediate, it's the bell curve meme, right? On the left of the bell curve, the immediate thing is, you add sats into a game and all of a sudden scammers and hackers are going to get worse. But I think, the right side of the bell curve is that if you add sats into the game in a proper way with the security deposit, maybe you can actually reduce and you can do exactly what you just said. You can make it so that if someone tries to scam and they get caught, they're going to actually lose real money. And I remember specifically when Halo came out, Halo 2, I guess, was the first one that was Xbox Live. A bunch of my friends had we all had early gamer tags with no numbers or anything. Right? We just had straight letters, with real words. And I had one friend who lost his beautiful gamer tag because we were cheating on Halo 2. And it was like a real skin in the game kind of, kick you in the balls. They gave him 3 strikes. He did his 2 strikes, and the 3rd strike, he lost it. And he got real punishment for trying to cheat in the game. What do you think about the potential there?
I think this already happens, right? Now, especially with skins, nowadays you got Steam accounts that are a bunch of games, right? And you have skins on CS:GO, and you have this over here, and you have Valorant this, and you have and now you have this inventory of things that are technically not money, but they're worth money inside of their own markets, right? You could sell the skins and you could use them here and there. It's not the monetary value, but people that have all those skins and have that inventory, once again, they're not going to cheat because they will run the risk of losing all of that. And I definitely know of people who have done something similar to your friend who's, let me mess around with this, and then got a warning, and then Steam was just like, no, I don't care. Let's just ban this person, and he lost everything. And I think it was thousands of dollars worth. He never did it again, right? Because to him, it was like, okay, I lost enough that I've learned my lesson. So it's the same with any sort of hackers, right? You need to make it more costly. This is something I talk to Mandel Duck a lot when we're working on the games. It's for Minkbox. It's because he's like, well, this person found this extreme edge case vulnerability here where this happens. So we just consistently add hurdles. So it's you need to do this, and then you need to find an encryption key in order to read the message, and then you need to do this other thing to read the message, and then to find the API key, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and then maybe you're able to try and attack the server. But you just went 5-6 levels deep, and it disincentivizes the attacker, a lot. So the more, I think the Sphinx chat there situation where you said with the deposit is very similar to the entrance fee of the CS:GO. You don't. We do have free credit servers where you come in for the sake of playing to learn, right, to see how it goes. But the people that are doing higher stake servers, you have to put the sats before you play. And so that already disincentivizes a lot of cheaters because they're like, well, I'm not going to potentially lose my sats. I want to gain sats. And if I'm putting sats on the line, there's a chance they're going to catch me and then I lose it, right? So the incentive's gone. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that model.
We have something like a safety deposit because our players, they run their own Lightning node, right? So they need to earn that channel first. So they need to earn about 5k sats, and then
Nice.
only then
They're
they
born
get a
into
Lightning
debt.
channel. What?
They're born into debt.
Yeah, exactly. So they need to earn that channel. And the cool thing, when we had our first hackers, he did not have a channel yet, and then another one had a channel yet, but then we just closed the channel, right? So he needed to earn another 5k sats to be able to
Smart.
play again. So yeah, but
Um,
I think the problem
Yeah.
with that is that it can, like, you fight a couple of hackers, but you reduce the UX for everybody.
Right. I think it
Sure.
needs to be like this idea that it's like the skins you have that are like locked in a game, or it's your gamer tag that's unique. That can't be the incentive. Like the incentive needs to be a very clear incentive. It needs to be very obvious what the company's policy is. And because otherwise you end up having, these fucked up situations where like a gamer puts in, 800, 5,000 hours into a game or something, and then everything they put in is just taken away from some like opaque policy, and like no one wants that.
Yeah,
That's obviously horrible. But Khan, so this is a great time to transition. We're an hour into this show. I do like to flex on other people in that this show specifically is free and open. We have no ads, no sponsors, no paywalls. It's available for everyone fully to download. So when I say that we're 56 minutes into the show, we are in fact 56 minutes in, regardless of where you listen to it. I think this is a great time to transfer into Lightning specifically, because one of the things is we would already have money in AAA games. The reason we have V-Bucks rather than US dollars, in my opinion, in Fortnite is because of regulations. It's because it's too difficult and too much friction to implement real money into games. And this is where all of a sudden Lightning and Sats can change that game. But there's certain issues that a lot of people don't like talking about with Lightning right now, because it's early, that gives us these pain points that we have, very similar pain points that we have in that traditional fiat world that we're talking about, right? And the reason I say it is that I think these games would add money directly into the game is because I honestly do believe that, if you add real money into a game, you create it so gamers can earn money playing your game, that it creates a viral feedback loop that will make your game more popular. So with that all said, this is why it's so fucking good that I have both of you on. So Khan went with, he sets up a full neutrino. You run like a lightning node, a light lightning node that uses neutrino directly in the client of the game, so that the user it's a non-custodial lightning experience. And you try and make it as frictionless as possible. I know you've been having a lot of pain with that, and I think you're transitioning away from that. So I do want to talk about that. But then on the opposite side, we have Andre at Zebedee, where they decided to go completely custodial because it has way less friction on the tech side. So yours has, Khan's implementation has more friction on the tech side, and Zebedee's solution has more friction on the regulatory side. I had to confirm my email address. I had to, and now I guess I can make 250,000 sats a day or something, and then I have to KYC because it's custodial, which is the same friction that like a Fortnite would have if they added PayPal or something. Can we talk about this? Can we talk about
Sure.
Look, at the end of the day, it's actually a very similar situation as especially with streaming. I mean, look, we're streaming through Twitch. For someone who's trying to operate a show like this, where if I wanted to collect tips, like the holy grail of collecting tips and gamifying the experience of you streaming sats to me while you're watching the show, is if I have a static QR code. So I think the holy grail, and I think both of you guys would agree with me, what we want is the ability for a streamer to have a static QR code that's completely non-custodial with no KYC, and anyone can scan it at any time and pay that streamer. And there's no friction, and it's permissionless, or as permissionless as possible. That's the holy grail. That's where we're going. Can we talk about, the trade-offs here and what you guys are battling in real time?
Do you want me to start? I mean, I have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, go.
Yeah.
So why did we want to do this neutrino stuff? Basically, was okay. We're based in Germany. Germany is very strict. You have a lot of rules. You cannot simply store funds for your users, right? So we thought, not only would it be really cool, and it's entirely possible to do that our users run their own node, but we basically thought it was mandatory. And so what we did is, our game has this launcher, which is a full LND in neutrino mode, and the user has full custody over his coins. But as you said, it has a lot of pain points. The UX is horrible. We need, because users need to be online I don't know, it's if they're online often. We didn't find like how much they really need to be online, but there's so many pain points. And the technical UX pain points, but then also the liquidity that we to provide, right? So I said earlier that a user needs to play 5k sats to earn a channel. That's horrible UX. Right. And also we need to then provide the liquidity for the channel. So we have someone who plays for I don't know, a good 2 days happy hours or 2 evenings happy hour, he earns his 5k sats. Now we open a channel with, I think 60k is what we open with. Now these 60k sats are locked. And we have 1,600 users, so not everyone has a channel yet, but it's a lot of liquidity we need to lock up. And yeah, it's such a pain point, which is why we never had Linux and Mac support. And I think it is the goal. And what you said with the static QR code, it was basically possible. You could key send to a user, right? Which is what we did, which is pretty cool. But what we're switching to is we show a QR code. You need to scan it with your wallet, which supports LNURL out, which Breeze does, for example, or Phoenix does. And then you're logged in with your wallet.
And wallet is Satoshi as well, or
not yet. I asked.
I think Breeze and Phoenix, right?
Yes, Breeze and Phoenix.
Breeze and Phoenix are the ideal mobile non-custodial wallets for new users.
I would
anyway,
agree,
right?
Yeah, I would agree.
So,
because what Breeze is doing is what we did, right? But they focus their whole attention to this, because they also have a neutrino node on the phone. But we also wanted to create a game, so for us it's just okay. We can't do both.
But when you switch to that, you're switching to a custodial model, right? Like you're going to hold the sats for people until they're ready to withdraw.
Yeah, but we will just allow whatever regulatory will need us to. Basically,
right. I think the friction
the friction in Lightning would be so simple. You play around and then you see a QR code and you need to withdraw, basically.
But the problem comes into with Phoenix and Breeze, I can't get a static QR code that I can post on the stream, for instance, right now, right? Like even something like tippin.me, which is what I'm currently using. If you want to support the show, tippin.me/@Matt_Odell. Like that's custodial. That's completely custodial, and it's not even a static QR code. It's not LNURL.
So we have a project where you could connect your node, and which would allow you to have a static QR code which uses LNURL pay, and you would send an invoice to the wallet then, which is what we use for our Twitch stream, where you can pay the user. So there is a way with this LNURL scheme, but there's not really a way yet for people to enable it without like this proxy type of thing. But it's entirely possible with LNURL pay to have a static QR code which pays to your non-custodial node.
So we're probably pretty close to that, right? We're close. Yeah. We got to be close to that. Like so basically, what as a gaming company, what you want is you want a Breeze or a Phoenix, like an async or something, to figure out a way to make it so that your gamers can just provide a QR code, and then you don't even need, I guess if you could do it in-house. Andre, so you actually built a wallet. You built a separate wallet, zbd.gg. Let's talk about, what the thought is into how that ended up.
Sure. Let me just touch on one thing. I think Breeze and Phoenix are great, and I think there are technicals that are in the works from multiple implementations in different ways to solve the issue of static QR codes and so forth. I know in the LND front, there's, the full-blown AMP support, which would provide static QR codes for static charges. And I know on the C Lightning front, Rusty's working on Lightning offers, which is, much more expensive, not expensive, but expansive than the general, like, just LNURL pay. It has many more features, but it's also being worked on. So I don't think it's that far off to imagine a world where a non-custodial Lightning wallet, if online, could have a static QR code without a separate proxy. I think that's sooner than not. But we're talking about, on the Lightning side of things and the implementation. So there is a little bit of technical things to go through there. On the Zebedee front, so the wallet was something we wanted to do for a while, even before Zebedee started. It's something that I'd been toying with, and really it's from experience, talking to other folks that aren't as technical and just generally into the Bitcoin world. It's very confusing. Like, all of this is super complex to them, right? And there are wallets that we could send to your newbie friend, and they would be able to pick it up, but you still need to understand the channels, and you still need to understand, like, why couldn't I do X and why couldn't I perform Y transaction? And so our view was that to onboard the next, million, 10 million, a billion, 5 million people, we can't really depend or wait on the technicals to be there. I think, our take was that, look, we can provide the UX, we can abstract this massive complexity and take care of that. So Zebedee is not a gaming studio. Zebedee is an infrastructure provider. We happen to create some games, and we happen to create products geared towards the gaming world, because that's our vertical. But we're not trying to be a gaming studio competing with AAA games and so forth. So the wallet, what it does is, it's like you said, it's a custodial wallet where you go from 0 to Lightning within an email password flow. So it's very familiar. There are trade-offs, and I don't think there's anything that Donna Lab commenting, unfortunately not with LNURL auth, but it's custodial in the sense that we hold the funds for you. But with Lightning, I think one of the things we like to say is, you don't have to keep it. Keep it as much as you keep on your wallet in your back pocket, right? It's not meant to be your Bitcoin wallet where you're storing your funds, and this is gaming money, right? This is your $50 on your wallet. It's $10, $50. So because Lightning is so fast, whether you have a node or whether your exchange supports Lightning, or whether you have a way to send it out, you can send it out at the end of the day, at the end of the week, whatever. One of the things that I definitely don't like about the way certain companies have handled the custodialness of Bitcoin is the situation that you talk about sometimes, Matt, which is like the locking the funds. It's like, we're locking your funds until you KYC.
Shotgun KYC is actually it's a common term now. I think I created it. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So I don't think we don't know the future, but this is something I stand by, and I really don't want to ever be in a position where we have to do that. And I'd like to say that we will never do that, because the way we set it up is, look, you have certain limits, and the limits reach on the daily, and then if you reach those limits, okay, tomorrow you can take your sats out. It's fine. Like, we're not in a position where we're gonna do what's called shotgun verification. So, but because we were talking about regulations and stuff, so because we're a custodial platform, and we're trying to be an infrastructure provider for your large studios, right? The goal really here is, like you were saying earlier, is to partner with large studios to bring this into a much larger audience. And unfortunately for them, there's absolutely no way that they would do that with a non-regulated company. It's just not a future for them. They may even become regulated themselves in order to do it. So we are pursuing all of the licenses and all the things, and there are certain things that we push back on, and there are certain things that we try to work around. Right now, for example, we only support Lightning, and I think that's great, because Lightning is inherently different than on-chain Bitcoin. And there are benefits to that. So we only support Lightning. We have plans for on-chain, but we don't yet. And there are limits which are risk-based, right? I think if we keep limits low and people are playing games, that's fine. You want to play games, you want to put $5 here, $10 here, that's totally fine. We have no issue, and there's no verification. There's nothing needed. You download the wallet, you use it, that's fine. If you're taking the wallet for a little bit more than your daily gaming and you want to have some funds, the reality is that we must know if you're doing, $200 worth of transactions back and forth, you're buying things here, you're buying things there. At this point, we have to have some information. So it does provide a much, much better UX at a trade-off, right? And I think what Bitcoin enables is these types of trade-offs. If you'd like to be fully self-sovereign, you have that opportunity, and all of our services are fully interoperable with your node, with your wallets, with any of the wallets. Everything is fine. It's about having options. If you don't have the option, I think it's a problem, but you do have the option. And so if you'd like to go to introduce your friend to Bitcoin, what happens a lot is people say, hey, download Coinbase. Why is that? It's not self-sovereign, but it's because it's the simplest UX. It's the best way to do it. But then you want to teach them, you want to educate them to learn about the other topics and the other fronts that Bitcoin enables in the case, self-sovereignty. So we do that for a reason. Like, look, once you reach your limits, either you do A or you do B, and we can provide you, help and guidance on how to do those. But I like to just say, like, I don't think a user removing the funds from Infuse and then putting them into wallet of Satoshi or Breeze or Phoenix means that we lost a customer. Like, I don't see it that way, right? I think our wallet is not necessarily meant to be hosting, 5 Bitcoin worth. That's not the point. It's a Lightning wallet. It's meant to be your gaming wallet. So I don't see it as losing a user or a customer. Like, we actually see it as, they're taking the right steps to be at a position where they're more self-sovereign, or where they're more in control of their keys, or whatever they'd like to do. So Bitcoin enables that. And I think we're using the technology of it and abstracting a lot of the UX, the complexities, to provide the best UX to onboard the other million. Comes at a trade-off, but
right.
That's the reality.
I mean, I first of all, I appreciate you being so discreet with the freaks and with myself, and that's awesome.
I'm not trying to hide anything, right?
I mean, look, Andre, I know you've always been discreet with me in bars, but I mean, we're public here, so I do appreciate the discretion. It does go a long way. I do think one of the underrated nice things about custodial Lightning is that you are able to, with relatively little friction, withdraw, right? So you can withdraw frequently, and this is why I continue to use Tippin.me. Is that I'm just constantly withdrawing, and it's a fine trade-off for me, because worst comes to worst, I think ultimately at some point that site's going to get shut down, and I'll lose $50 worth of Bitcoin or $75 worth of Bitcoin, and it's a trade-off I'm willing to make for just convenience. There's a convenience trade-off. It's a very easy to use service. The real concern, right, is ultimately if regulators clamp down and say that 250,000 sats per day is too much, and they try and make it lower and lower and lower, and then you kind of have to come up with something else. But meanwhile, right now, for most gamers, 250,000 sats, what is that? It's like $150. Like, that's a pretty reasonable. Right. I think that's a pretty reasonable trade-off to make for just email verification for convenience sake. But let's be honest, I'm a Bitcoiner, right? Ultimately, I want some random 13-year-old in Singapore to win like the $10 million jackpot completely anonymously to his own node, right? Like that's where I want us to be at, right?
And I think we were saying, like, you can withdraw often and frequently. I think that's something. It's fine to talk about it. We're looking into. Not looking. We have like prototypes, and we're developing. Everyone's talking about streaming sats, right? And what we're going to do is essentially allow you to create essentially what we're saying, like you select another payment or another node, another something through an LNURL pay. So in the sense of Constantine talking about Bitcoin Bounty Hunt, it's like, look, here's my node and here's my LNURL pay QR code. So you will be able to scan it with your Zebedee wallet and then dictate, every so often send this many sats to this wallet until X, right? Until it's empty, or until I reach 50,000 sats or whatever. And you'll be able to let that happen period. Like the wallet is closed and on your phone, and so you're just consistently taking funds out of Zebedee into whatever you'd like it to be. So once again, it's facilitating the onboarding and the use of Lightning and in games and so forth, but not really removing your ability to be slightly more private and slightly more sovereign, where you consistently just withdraw. You don't even need to do it manually. You set it up once, and then you just have recurring streaming of payments back to a node of yours. So there are steps in that direction, and I think there are technical steps too. I think there are things that are happening in Lightning that will provide us with some more capabilities on the protocol layer. Yeah, it's where we stand now.
Are you? I mean, so this is an issue that is also facing Sphinx chat. Is this idea? It's trying to make Lightning work in a non-custodial fashion. I mean, I think most importantly is because of regulations, because we don't want the KYC friction. And what's really interesting about what they did, and I don't know if it's implementable with gamers, and this is what I thought was really cool that you did, that you tried to go this route where you just implemented a neutrino node in the software itself. Is that this idea is they just added, they're calling it the Uncle Jim model, but they're also calling it multi-tenant. I think it's kind of funny and cool that Uncle Jim is like just a known nomenclature in the space now. All the freaks know it. But they had this multi-tenant model, right? Where like you can run Sphinx on your Umbrel as a podcaster, and then everyone you onboard into your Sphinx chat, you onboard through your own node instead of them running the node. Because if they ran the node, then all of a sudden you start entering custodial, you enter regulatory gray areas and stuff. And a perfect analogy in the gaming world, I think, is I own the new Xbox. I don't know what do they call it now? The Xbox. I have the nicest one, Xbox One X or something. I don't know. Yeah. Something like that. They make the naming really confusing now. And they have a remote gaming feature, so I can game from any mainstream Android or iPhone, iOS device. But the regulations dictate that even though Microsoft runs the largest cloud servers in the world, I can't stream from their Azure stack. I can't stream from their globally accessible high-speed servers, because then all of a sudden they have to pay the gaming companies different, licensing fees and stuff. So instead, what they did was they literally implemented node at home, into the stack. So your Xbox is running at home. It's connected to Fios. It's connected to fiber internet, and then it broadcasts to your like tablet or your phone or whatever. It's a feature that I've never used, but it's pretty cool that it's a feature that exists purely because of the regulations, right? And it's something that, to me, in my head, makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, Google did that with Stadia, where you need to buy it, right? So they tried.
But with Stadia, it comes from Google servers, and they have licensing fees.
And you need
to
pay. You need to buy the games on Stadia, right? So it's like a Netflix subscription, even.
Right,
but
you
Xbox, can also do it with
you own the game.
I think, with your PC game. So
with Xbox, you're streaming it to yourself. You're streaming the game to yourself only because of regulations, because you have to with regulations, and the user would have no idea.
So if your internet at home sucks, your streaming sucks.
Then the user knows. But if the user's internet is good, they just don't even realize. It's like it's a very seamless kind of experience.
I think it's similar to the Stadia model, where if you have 1 gigabyte, fiber, it's beautiful experience, but everyone else that doesn't have that, it's a lesser of an experience of playing games. At least my experience so far with Stadia has not been great.
No, but Andre, do you not see that you don't see the difference there? Like you literally have a company that is like top 3 cloud server operators in the world, Microsoft, and I'm streaming the game from my $600 piece of hardware that's at home, that costs less than a Noddle Dojo and is sitting at home, and I'm streaming it from that only because of regulations.
Do you think it's regulations or contract mess with
Yeah, that's
other
what I mean.
gaming.
It's contract mess, not regulations. Contract mess.
But I think I would guess they're working on cloud gaming as well. They just haven't figured out all the things yet. I mean, there's a lot of talk about cloud gaming always. But I agree that the Uncle Jim model for gaming is also here yet. You also do it with Steam, and it works pretty well. I agree.
What's with Steam? How does that work?
Like you can just it's also you can also play with friends. I think you can play like games that are only designed for local co-op. You can I don't know how it's called, but it's like Steam Friend Play or something, and it really works. You can play these local games co-op over the wire.
Oh yeah, where only one person has to own the co-op
Yeah, exactly.
game, which makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, but back to Lightning, I think the non-custodial, it's just Lightning is too expensive. I mean, in the last with the 10K prices, we could afford that, but right now we can't.
So what
We need
about
layer 3?
Layer 3.
Yeah, I think again, if we advance Lightning, a few years, I think there are things that will become possible, right? If we, right now it's very expensive to hit the chain, like it's just prohibitively expensive for a game, like a single player of a single game to hit the chain every time they need to withdraw because they need to open a channel. That's prohibitively expensive. But if you're talking about like multi-peer channels and you're talking about like opening channels without needing to hit the chain because you're doing some sort of like there's a service that pools them together and then opens a big a single transaction on chain opens multiple channels. Like there's many ways to make it cheaper for that, and then including like improvements on AMP and possibly like the offer situation that I mentioned already. So I think there are technical items and advancements that can improve it. But in general, I agree with the sentiment. It's with Lightning, it's very hard to provide that user experience right now in a non-custodial way in the game, right? Like as we're speaking about.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like a key aspect of Lightning that I wanted to discuss because I think you guys are on the front lines of it. And it really is like, it is going to be, this is the next, it is something, it is the next main pain point as Bitcoiners that I think we need to focus on, right? Is this idea of making a non-custodial Lightning experience that is as frictionless as possible. And I think it's really cool what Breeze and Phoenix are doing. But depending on how regulators approach that, they even might not be non-custodial enough. So it should be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah,
there's different models of non-custodialness, right? And Phoenix has their own, and Breeze has their own, and you can make the argument on the other side, but I think they are the most non-custodial you can get now, especially if you receive funds and then you possibly even close the channel with their with the upstream, right, with the Breeze and Async, for example. Right. Then you're truly non-custodial. But until you're doing that, you're still a little bit under their umbrella. It's what we like to I like to say to my friends who are not in this space. It's that they see the price rise and all of this, and I tell them, like, if there is no war to be fought, then like, did we actually win something, right? Like, because
we did win. If there's no war, we won.
I understand the sentiment, right? But there has to be conflict. Like, there will be. It's inevitable. There will be conflict. There will be you can call it a war, but if there isn't one, it was too easy, right? I think there has to be, and I think it'll start at the fringes of regulation as it has been for the past, however long you want to say, 6, 7, 8 years, and Lightning is the next frontier, and I hope Zebedee and Donner Lab are good people to have at the edges and trying to speak, and I can tell you that compliance is one of the most tedious things, but it's a necessity in the way we designed our business model, and we're going to do our best to be at a position where we can push back on things. So I hope to always be able to answer these questions on interviews like this.
Yeah.
Switching.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, switching a little bit. I'd love to talk a little bit about some things we're coming up with Infuse, which I think is pretty cool.
Hit us.
Specifically, yeah. So right now in Infuse CS:GO, we have the tournament mode, right? Which is basically you need to gather people at the same time, and then the match starts. You have a warm up, and then you play around, and then basically each player has a share of the pot. What we got next, which is basically taken from the real notion of Ready Player One. If you ever watched that movie, there's a scene on Planet Doom. Such a nerd for me to know that. There's a scene on Planet Doom. I've watched that movie so many times, where I forget the character's name, but they're just going around in this planet, and it's kind of just like shooting around players. And when they get killed, you see the coins move out, and then they grab the coins, right? And this is, I think, the world that we would like to have, which is like this world where stats
at least the book version.
Right, sure, exactly. Of the sats are like part of it. It's kind of like your life, but not really your life. So what we came up with is actually a new mode of CS:GO, and CS:GO has lots of modes. You've got competitive, you got casual, you got team deathmatch, and so on. The one we have, we're calling it tournament mode. It's a free for all deathmatch, and then the one that we're coming up with is called survival mode. And it's basically you come in and you put like 1,000 sats, right? And that's the entrance. And you basically have 1,000 sats in your life. Like your life in the server is 1,000 sats. Killing someone, if you kill someone, you get their sats. So they lose, 50 sats. So it's independent. Your score is independent of everyone else. And this is something that happens in CS:GO a lot, is we basically remove the notion that you have to get together to play, because you can just have forever running servers and people can just come in and play and exit at any point, right? So they come in, they shoot around, and they win some sats. Okay, I'm done, I want to get out, so I exit. But if you lose enough sats, you get kicked from the server because you don't have any more sats to play around, right? So we're coming up with that, and that's really cool. We've been testing it. I think we're going to make that the main Infuse mode, because it's just quite a bit better. And with that, we recently launched on a slightly separate note, we recently launched the Zebedee Discord bots and Telegram bots. So the wallet allows you to pair it with the Discord and Telegram bots that you can add to your own servers, and you can use in our servers. And you can use like commands to do sending of sats back and forth through something like Z send, and then you set it apart. So we actually added that into CS:GO through survivor mode. So you can imagine where if you're playing around and you have 1,000 sats and your buddy is here and he has like 20 sats, and if he dies one more time, he's going to get kicked, you can actually Z send 50 to Constantine, and then you're sending him your life, right? You're like, hey, I'm giving you sats so that you can continue here. So I think there's a lot of incentive structures that we can create around like team deathmatch on this, because you don't want your teammate to go out because you need bodies. So you're going to give part of your health out to this other player. So we're going to come out with that. It's really, really exciting. And then on top of that, we're going to come out with sponsored servers, where similarly to Bitcoin Bounty Hunt, you have sponsors who have I guess billboards right on the maps themselves. So we're getting maps that are open source maps, and we're editing those and adding thing here or there, and making it so that the entrance fee for those servers are necessarily free, paid by a sponsor. So it's a similar model. It's not the same. And then lastly, we're actually playing around with the notion of audience participation, which is something that we've been doing with Mintgox for a while, where in this case, as Infuse, as a user of Infuse, you're playing the CS:GO match, you can bring out a QR code, which is a static QR code, and if your audience pays it, it affects your gameplay. The first mode that we set up is there's this drug mode in CS:GO where your vision gets skewed and you walk slower and you move around, but it gives you sats. So if you're dying in the game, you can actually hide and get your audience like, hey, give me sats. So they give you life to continue, but your gameplay is all screwed up, so you can't see straight and you can't move right or left. So the audience.
I dig that.
Yeah, the audience moves from passive to being an active audience member, and I think that's really powerful. So there's a few things coming to Infuse that we're really excited for.
There's almost like
Sounds
two
really
different
cool.
elements. It's like the idea of building a platform that is fun for the average user, versus, we have this whole new streamer culture, right? We're
Right.
broadcasting on Twitch right now, where you could build a cool tool that is just a cool game that is just designed for like the top 100 streamers,
Right.
with it, right, with incentives set up that their audience is like basically playing the game with them, by pushing sats through them.
It's similar to Constantine's Bitcoin bounty hunt, where like the audience can put a bounty on someone else, and so you're actually putting a bounty on a player who you actually want to get killed, because the fact that there's more bounty on their head, it means that whoever kills them gets more sats. So it changes the dynamic completely. We have something similar with Bitcoin Rally as well, where given enough power ups from the audience, this quote unquote God mode happens, and then there's like thunder and lightning all over the screen, and you can't really see straight, and you're hitting the walls, and the first player that was at the front, at the end of this like 15-second thing, is the third player, and it completely changes the gameplay. So we're really excited for these types of breaking the audience, breaking the wall between the audience and the game. And this goes back to what I was saying about Zebedee. We actually started with a developer dashboard, because we thought, why wouldn't gamers want to build games with Bitcoin? This is so simple and straightforward. Like, why would you not want this? But it's early days, and I think it's something that we need to show. We need to provide options and real games to prove to the current gaming industry that like this is possible, this is real, this is what we can enable. So I think Bitcoin Bounty Hunt was a great game to showcase that, because it's a complete game, right? Like, you have the entire experience, you have the shooting, you have the dying, you have all of it. And I think CSGO brings it on another level, because CSGO is, quote unquote, a AAA game. It's like a full on, massive game. And I think it takes that a step further. So, I think the reason why we're not a gaming studio is because it's an uphill battle against giants. And so we are infrastructure providers and consumer products for the gaming industry as a whole. So we're actually focusing a lot on streaming. We're focusing a lot on the audience participation, right? In Mintgox, that's a really big piece of it, because we want to prove the new types of things and interactions that are enabled by Lightning. Because changing, removing your fiat rails and putting Lightning, it's great, right? But it's not that much better. The experience of someone going to the deli down the street or the bodega and paying with an Apple Pay, or paying by scanning a QR code, like, those experiences are not that much better, right? Like, it's not a 10x improvement or a 100x improvement. And for a user to change their ways, you really need that 10x improvement. You really need it needs to be really clearly better, right? It shouldn't be a question of if or when. And I think Lightning enables things that aren't possible with the dollar. Right now, you have you were mentioning this earlier, Matt, like, you have the cheapest thing you can buy online, period, through dollars, is like 99 cents. Like, that's the cheapest thing, and that's an app store, and really it's like 129 because they add tax on it. So 99 cents is the cheapest, and with Lightning you can go, like I was saying, all the way to 1 sat, and possibly later on even millisats. So there are types of interactions that are inherently impossible with legacy infrastructure, and it's inherently trivial with Lightning. And I think that's what we want to push forward. The same sort of things that Constantine and Bitcoin Bounty Hunter are pushing forward, these new types of interactions that aren't possible.
It's always going to be the challengers. It's always going to be the challengers that innovate. League of Legends isn't going to innovate. Call of Duty didn't innovate, right? They didn't innovate. Fortnite came in, Epic came in, they innovated. No, really, the other game innovated. What was that first?
PUBG.
Wow, I'm such a dick. Yeah,
PUBG?
PUBG. Yeah, they were the first ones to fucking innovate, right? And then they just got their asses handed to them by Epic Games. But this idea, right, that we're gonna have AAA games just add sats will never fucking happen at first. They need to feel like their pants are on fire before they do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
but I think modding is probably a big thing. So I think you can mod a game to have Lightning, and then maybe if the users want it, they will play on Infuse servers versus normal servers. So I think with modding it's entirely possible.
That's the idea behind Infuse, right? It's
that's
getting
fun.
the games.
That's fun. You're like sticking your foot in the door, but that's different, right, than the game shipping with fucking SaaS.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's the difference between a pop-up and a native advertising, right? It's built
Right.
into the fabric of it. And I think that, Matt, you're spot on where there's no incentive whatsoever for them at this point, right? Not only is the infrastructure not there for the level of, like, Steam is seeing, 20 million active users concurrently. Like, we are not at a position where Lightning is ready for 20 million concurrent users making payments up and down. I don't know that we're there yet. I would like to say we're not, but we will be soon. So there's very little incentive. They control the rails, they control the economy. They do whatever they want. I think Infuse and CS:GO is a way to show them what's out there. Like, this is what's new on a real game, right? And real as in like on a AAA big title game. And we can show it. Okay. And then let's say we get a bunch of traction. Okay. And then we get a bunch of servers. Okay. We get a bunch of gamers. And then we start seeing people want different games. So, okay, let's infuse Minecraft. Let's infuse Dota 2. Let's infuse League of Legends. Let's infuse Fortnite. There's a bunch of games that we can't infuse because of the way they are and the way they're set up. But there's a bunch of games we can. So imagine a future where we have Minecraft infused, Dota 2 infused, CS:GO.
Minecraft is already infused. We did that first.
Yeah. So you get to a place where it's inevitable that they will start asking questions. It's impossible for them to see traction elsewhere. It's similarly to Among Us, right? There will eventually be a game. I don't think it's the games that we're talking about right now, but there will eventually be a game that is Lightning powered and Bitcoin powered, and it will blow up the same way you have Among Us, which is a game that is relatively simple, but it just exploded.
Such
And
a
it
stupid
totally
game.
right, and it's fun to play with friends, but that's basically it. It's like not that
It's
much
Secret
more.
Hitler, right?
That's one way to put it. Yeah.
But I mean, it's a known game format, right?
Right. And
Yeah,
and
like
I think
werewolf or mafia or what's
Right.
right,
Secret Hitler.
right.
Where
And
there's one
so-
person's the
I
mole
didn't
and you're trying
know
to
that
figure out who the
name
mole is,
before.
right?
Didn't know that. Yeah, exactly. How would you,
Yeah.
because there's open source versions of it, how would you infuse Lightning there in an Among Us type game or Secret Hitler type game?
I think for those games, there's what we can infuse at the moment are servers that we can host. So if we can host a server of Among Us, and get some information from that server, we should be able to infuse it. So it's not necessarily, it's what I was saying earlier. It's not necessarily that every game can be infused. And then there are also big publishers that completely disable that like capability. So for example, Epic Games has in their terms of service, big and bold, we do not allow any cryptocurrency in our games. Like, so if
Really?
yeah, so let's say we add it,
Wow,
right?
what
Even as
haters.
a mod, let's assume that we add it, and then we get a little bit of traction. All it takes is one person from the Fortnite world and Epic Games and be like, oh, these guys are doing this, it's illegal, shut them out,
Fuck 'em.
right?
But
Yeah.
Steam has that
So
as well, by the way. I
so
don't know
Who
if
has that as
Counter-Strike
well?
falls under that. Yeah, because we were rejected from Steam Bitcoin Bounty Hunt because we use cryptocurrencies. Every payment that goes through a Steam game must be done via Steam Wallet.
I feel like they could at least do us the respect of saying Bitcoin instead of cryptocurrency. Like if you're gonna
Yeah.
ban us in the terms and conditions, at least be like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
And others. That's true.
Khan, do you
The-
see this question from Sam Weiner
Yeah.
or Weiner? He wants to know if you'll be creating new maps for Bitcoin Bounty Hunt.
So
Nice.
the cool thing is, I already announced on MintGox that Bitcoin Bounty Hunt, everything that all the backends, all the stuff that uses the payments and stuff will be open source next month. So while we might currently not work on new maps, creating new maps is super easy, and you will be able to, or creators will be easily able to create their own maps, and then they will be able to monetize creating those maps. So because we think that content
Yes.
creation is pretty cool, we can monetize it in Bitcoin Bounty Hunt. So if your map gets played, you will get sent sats. And we want to do this. So it will be open source and everyone can create maps, and we might have a Dust 2 competitor on Bitcoin Bounty Hunt soon.
We're gonna have like 1 million maps.
Sick.
There's gonna be a fucking insane amount of maps.
Yeah,
That's
and we
awesome,
will
dude.
have community hosted servers and stuff like this. Because
Do you remember that? Do you know that game, the motorcycle game that I'm talking about? That you had community
Yeah.
generated maps.
I know what you mean. It's like Happy Days or something.
It's like every game, every map was like glitchy as fuck though. Like there was like, it was like, I feel like if they could make sats on it, maybe the maps would not be so extreme. They'd be more like legitimate, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it was, you had to ride the motorbike and you couldn't fall off the motorbike. It was a side
Like,
scroller. And they would make
like
the
this
map
really
where you would do like
crazy
insane loops and shit. And it was just like always
Yeah.
like they were rewarded basically for going as aggressive as fucking possible. But like you could never finish the track. It was just like impossible to finish the track in the user created modes, at least the big ones.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you added an incentive for people to create these user created tracks or user created maps, trials. Yep. Thank you,
Trials.
BTC
Yeah.
Pins in the
That's it.
comments.
No, I
If
think
you
it's
added an
genius.
incentive there, then maybe they'll actually polish it out, right?
Yeah, and I mean a server hoster would decide to what map he will want to have in the rotation, so you won't have as many shitty maps, probably.
And I think that if it's called Trials, I think it's Trials.
It's definitely
There's also,
trials. It's 100% trials is the game I'm talking about.
I
Great
think
game.
there's also I know we're saying the holy grail is getting AAA game studios to adopt this, but we forget sometimes that I don't know if you remember this, but Congregate, Milliclip, and all of these portals of web games, they're seeing millions and millions of users a month still.
Right.
Like we're talking about like there's a lot of small tiny web based games that can very easily introduce sats, and there's no walled garden to be worried about. There's no this and that can't be done, and it again, it changes the incentives. I think there's really cool things that can be done at a smaller scale, similar to Among Us, right? We could infuse Among Us or a game like it, and it doesn't have like the sharpest and the crispest and polygons on all over the place because it's so high def, right? It's just the game based on the game itself, and it's a small game and it's great and it has sats, and those sats can speak to the other game over there and then another game, and you can get it out and you can do this, and so there is this whole world of like the long tail of indie game developers and web-based games that aren't necessarily your AAA games. That we're definitely seeing some interest in people asking after seeing CS:GO and after seeing Bitcoin Bounty Hunt and the games we show at Mintgox. It's like, oh, how do I get started? And they're like, oh, here's the dashboard. Here's how you get started, and here's this, and that. So there is interest, not only from the AAA on that side, because there's very little incentive for them now, but on the indie game side, there's a lot of incentives for them to add it. I think there's anywhere from like 500 to 1,000 games deployed to the App Store every day, man. It's just like, it's absurd number. It's so saturated. So you need to stand out. If your game is just another tiny game, you're talking like 0.0001% chance of your game getting user base. But if you add a new incentive thing, and maybe you add Bitcoin and you take advantage of the trend that we're seeing now, maybe you can set yourself apart, right? And your game can be set apart and like, oh, okay, this is.
But that's what I'm saying, right? Is like is people undercount, non-gamers undercount the significance of the fact that we're adding sats to games. Like I think like it's going to be fucking massive. I mean, Farmville. What was the parent company of Farmville? You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
Zynga,
right? Like that whole idea of like the mobile gaming format came out of nowhere. It completely came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden everyone was fucking doing it, right? Yeah. Like if you have a solid setup, if all it takes is one small company in the mobile sphere that fucking kills it with sats in the game, and then all of a sudden every shitty fucking app in the App Store, every single shitty game in the App Store is going to be a derivative of that same exact product.
Agreed. I think it's a network effect. I think it's a network effect thing. It's going to take one game to let's just call it blow up, right? Like the same scenario of Among Us or Lightsaber in VR, like PUBG or all of them. And, it'll take one of those that sets the standard, and then people are like, oh, this is where we're headed, so let's focus on that. and then I think it's down uphill from here, not downhill, because it's a good thing. Yeah, that's
agree.
how I see it.
But as a current game developer, I can only say creating games is super hard. So Bitcoin Bounty Hunt is our first game. It's
you
hell.
created a good game though, dude. You created like a really solid, like high development game. So
I can't.
cheers to you
I don't
on
know
that.
that. Props, man. I don't know that I do it. Personally, I'm not a game developer, but talking to game devs, on a weekly basis, and then talking to you and Chris and so on, and it's just like I know nothing of that world.
Yeah, I am not a developer at all, and that seems like what you built is you did a fucking great job so far. So I'm very proud of you, and I look forward to seeing the iterations over there. So I want to jump into what the fuck Mint Gox is, but before I do that,
Nice.
I just want to do a quick shill to all of our Twitch viewers because we've been trying to go hard in the paint on Twitch. These guys have like a bunch of Twitch channels. You can go to twitch.tv/DonnerLab. That's Bitcoin Bounty Hunt's main twitch.tv. You can go to MintGox, twitch.tv/MintGoxTV is where they do MintGox. We're about to talk about MintGox. Then you can also do twitch.tv/ZebedeeIO. Subscribe to that. So if you're a Twitch subscriber here, subscribe to all of those. I'm trying to figure out Twitch. I think we can like rebroadcast each other. So ideally what I would like is for Citadel Dispatch's Twitch to just constantly have Sats gaming going on. I think like that's like kind of the policy. So I plan to republish you guys. I know that's a possibility. I don't know how that works.
So if you start,
you're going to tell me?
Show started, we already had 2 new advertisers, and if you go to our Twitch right now, you can now see all the advertisers that are in the game, which is a pretty cool new feature.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So now, if your image gets approved, you directly see it in the game. So we got Bitcoin runners and who was new as well? Flip at Bitcoin Magazine. These are 2 new advertisers we just got.
I like Flip. And the other thing is we got Quinn Solo in the chat, quinsolo.com. He has reached out to me. He's a good friend. He wants to do giveaways on this show for Bitcoin development, for free open source development. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do those giveaways yet. So I want the freaks to come into the Sphinx chat. I want the freaks to reach out to me on DM and Keybase and in this chat right now and say how we should do those giveaways. We're going to do them. We're going to start next week. And let's do it in like a kosher way. Like I'm not trying to buy engagement. I don't want retweets. I don't want likes. I don't want subscriptions. But I want to do it in a way that rewards the freaks that join us on Bitcoin Tuesdays live with some cool merch because what Quinn Solo builds over there is really fucking dope. With all that said, Mint Gox. What the fuck is Mint Gox?
All right. I'll take this one. So Mint Gox was a response to COVID. So Zebedee last year, we actually had our technology was ready. We got games to show, and then we're basically at the final stages of planning our conference roadshow, where we basically go to this conference, we show the technology, and showing it in person and seeing the reaction of people is instant. Like when they get it, and you see this light pop in their head, and they really get the idea of Bitcoin and games and so forth. And then everything got canceled, right? So we basically got to a point where we needed to find other ways to showcase what we can do, what's possible. And so we decided alongside a few other players, including Constantine and Donolab, and then Jack Everett at Thunder Games, who creates Bitcoin Bounce and Turbo 84, and then Desiree Dickerson from Lightning Labs, and us at Zebedee. So we basically got together and decided, we need to be able to showcase these things. And so what if we created an event that was a little bit more than just, looking at people over Hangouts and streaming games, but was a little bit more involved. But it was geared specifically for gaming with Bitcoin. So Mint Gox started in March of 2020, and now we're a year in. Actually, that's insane. And it's a monthly event that happens on the last Sunday of every month, where we get together, audience members, game developers, participants, everyone, and we do a bunch of esports tournaments. So we have an esports tournament for Bitcoin Bounty Hunt every time. We have esports tournaments for CS:GO, Infuse CS:GO matches. We have tournaments for Bitcoin Rally, and we're consistently adding more. We have tournaments for Bitcoin Bounce and Turbo 84. And so as an audience member, you go to mintgox.com and you land on this dashboard. Right now, you would only see the agenda of the event, but on the day of the event, you land on this dashboard where you see a stream in the middle, and then you have a bunch of tools around it, which are Lightning enabled. So you can play games inside of the same stream. So you can play Saratobi, which is a simple game similar to a Flappy Bird type game where you can get, you're basically trying to get farther into the game, and there's sats in that game and coins. And you can play, there's a faucet game called Sat Stacker where it's basically a faucet where people can get involved, and I don't have any sats, no problem, play Sat Stacker and get some sats. And so what we want to do is showcase what's possible with Lightning, and we've been doing that every month. And recently, we've basically reached a point where all of the prizes that we're giving out total up to 10 million Satoshis. So we're talking like 0.1 of a Bitcoin. The next Mint Gox that we have is this Sunday. So today's Tuesday, so next Sunday, the 28th, I believe. And that's Mint Gox 14. So we've done Mint Gox, there's the general mintgox.com. We've done 2 or 3 Mint Gox geared to the Asian market because there's a large demand there too. And we hope to expand into the South American market as there's quite a bit of demand and user base there as well. And we're always looking for new game developers. If you have a game that is using Bitcoin in some way, shape, or form, please reach out. We're very friendly, and we want to showcase what's possible. So that's Mint Gox, and we've been doing it for a while. I think it's a great way for one. I was saying it earlier. One of the big problems that game developers have is unless you're a big studio that has budget to do PR and marketing, you're going against the grain here, because like I said, there's like hundreds of games deployed every day of every week, and it's just completely saturated. But if you have Bitcoin in your game, you now have a dedicated spot where you can not only test your game, get testers, get feedback, and so forth. But if your game is ready and it's at its peak, let's actually host tournaments. Let's actually host users playing, because the user base is here. There are plenty of people interested in this front and in these Bitcoin-enabled games. But we basically need more games. So that's what we're helping to do. So I actually just something that hasn't been announced, but I checked with Mission Control, and basically it's okay to talk about it. We are actually hosting a 2-day hybrid event at Bitcoin 2021, where it's a live. There's going to be a bunch of live things. There's going to be a bunch of things that you can join remotely. There's tournaments for all the games that we talked about, and
it's gonna be dope as fuck.
yeah, and without giving too much, we actually have a CS:GO tournament where companies can actually sign up for. So we aim to have, this company versus this company, and we get 5 people aside, and then we have CS:GO matches, whether it's local to Miami and Bitcoin 2021 or remote, because all of our systems.
Well, we're gonna have a lot of remote people is the plan.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's
I've been
kind of
actually
the idea.
consulting on the Bitcoin Magazine side.
I know you knew. So yeah.
I mean, but the idea is right. Like the idea is that we're the majority of people are going to be coming in through remote, right?
Yeah, so we'll have even some of our team members are likely going to be unable to come, right, because of restrictions and so forth. So we will make it entirely hybrid. So you can participate from home and you can participate from the event, and you have the same chances of winning, and you have the same chances of participating. So if you have friends and you want to participate in the tournaments and the games, start prepping with some friends, and we can possibly get some teams made. We're going to announce a lot of these things in the coming weeks, but it's going to be an awesome time, man. I'm super excited.
I mean, it should be the largest in-person Bitcoin gaming event
powered
ever.
esports. Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah.
So if any company needs a good CS:GO player, I'm free. I was one below global elite. I'm a free agent.
What happened, Khan? What happened? Why were you just only one below?
Because I don't know. I was too old already. No, probably not.
Yeah, you were 16. You're past the age, the prime
Yeah,
age. Yeah.
past the prime
No,
age, exactly.
it should be really excited. I'm really, really pumped for it. There's lots of prizes. If you like winning Bitcoin, just get involved. There's plenty of Bitcoin to be given out. So,
Are you both coming down to Miami in Bitcoin 2021?
I'm not sure
June
yet.
4th and
I
5th?
have a lot of FOMO, but I don't know how it is with regulations, travel, and such. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'll be there for 10 days. So
Yeah, Andre has no regulations to use as an excuse. So, I'll be there for 7. So I'm glad to
Nice.
hear that. It's gonna be a fucking good time. If you haven't bought your ticket, use code Humble. They did rug pull me. You still get 15% off, which is more than any other public promo code. But it used to be 21% off to the early freaks. But don't worry, it's trending to 0 in terms of Bitcoin. So if you do wait, you might be able to get it cheaper if it doesn't sell out in the meantime. I mean, I think this has been a great conversation in general. I have 2 more topics that I want to hit before we end this. It seems like we don't have any, like, freaks. If you have any questions, hit us with questions. To the people listening via podcast, we love all of you. Fuck yes. Quinn Solo wants you to know that he's up for some custom engraving for the freaks. If that's the path you want to go down, we're going to have giveaways with Quinn Solo to support free open source development. And I want the freaks to decide how that goes. So I don't know if other shows do that, but this is how I want to fucking do it. Quinn Solo seems like he's up for the task. He makes like my favorite flask. My favorite flask has the Tales from the Crypt logo on it. It says Matt Odell. It's from Quinn Solo. It's the fucking best flask ever. Everyone's like, you're so conceited. I'm like, I'm not conceited. He sent it to me. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to rep what the freak sent me. He has dope products. So don't be shy. Tell us, what you think we should go with that.
We may need to partner with them. We're getting swag for the conference now. We may need to talk to them.
Yeah, let's do that. Quinn Solo's fucking dope. You should partner with them.
I want our logo on a coaster. That would be pretty cool.
Sick.
Yeah. You heard that, Quinn? He's here. He heard that. He'll make it happen. Reach out to them.
I will, yeah.
I was actually telling Quinn to reach out to you. Stay humble, Matt. Yeah, I appreciate that, Quinn. Quinn told me to stay humble to all the podcast people. So the 2 things I wanted to talk about was, first of all, it looks like people have dropped off a little bit here on the live element. They're getting a little upset that we're not talking about the most important Bitcoin fundamental. So we're going to have to save that for all the freaks that have been here till, the ride or die freaks. Both of you, I want to hear, we'll start with Khan. Do you believe that Bitcoin is designed to pump forever?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it'll pump forever. We will make sure of it. I'm not a supporter, contrary to Andre. I'm not a supporter of stock to flow, but it will go up forever. I'm in for the long run. Our players are in for the long run. The Mint's prize pools will be the biggest prize pools in esports history. So
yes,
100%.
I mean, we made millionaires, right? So
yeah, it's gonna in hindsight, people are gonna look back there and be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I didn't fucking participate in that."
It was so easy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. We had I was saying we had a 15, 16-year-old or something like that he even asked his dad permission, and he was like, "Can I play on this thing? Is this for real?" And he won 600,000 sats, and it's like insane because in 2 years, 3 years time, he's gonna look back and be like, "What were you doing this day in 2021?" And he's like, "Oh, I was just making millions playing 15 minutes of CS:GO." So I fully support that notion that
fucking legend meme.
Legend there.
Yeah.
Fucking legend. I love it. So Andre, do you agree? You're agreeing that it's designed to pump forever?
Yes, to a certain extent, mostly, and the extent is the base of money, like how much money is there in
Oh,
the
no.
world.
Okay, so
Right.
Andre, so the question is, when fiat dies, so obviously
Okay.
when we
Okay.
enter hyperinflation, like obviously Bitcoin's going to continue to pump in terms of shitty money.
Sure.
But then after that money dies and Bitcoin becomes the global reserve currency and everything is priced in sats, does the purchasing power of your sats not increase forever?
Does the purchasing power of my sat in a world where Bitcoin is the sole, global currency reserve, whatever you want to call it, given its finite nature, I would agree, because the economy will grow. There's always more, quote unquote, there's always more people in part of the economy. So there's more purchasing power. So yes, in short, if that is the future you're talking about, yes, it will.
That's the
forever.
future we expect, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I support that notion.
It's important for you both to realize that like all 24 guests that came before you guys have had to answer this question as well. This is an important aspect. I'm Matt Odell, providing a technical focused podcast that also asks this question every single episode, which I think is a nice mix. And then my second question is a way more difficult question and is very specific to gaming. And it would behoove me to not mention this. Gaming addiction. Where do we fall in gaming addiction? I feel like we need to talk about this. Like, we can't be talking about people fucking killing each other in games for sats, playing Mario Kart for sats. I know I pronounced it poorly, without talking about gaming addiction. Where do you guys stand on this? Like, what are we supposed to do? There are people that are addicted to gaming, right?
Yeah, and they are addicted without sats. Maybe they will be with sats. I think it's fix the money, fix the world kind of problem, maybe. So if we have sats in game, maybe monetization will be fixed. I don't know. So I see it as an issue that is not linked to having sats in the game. However, I personally see that sats in the game ups the toxicity of gaming by a lot. I don't know what you see, Andre, but I don't see addiction as a problem combined with sats, but I see toxicity as a big problem when you have money on the line.
Yeah, my view is very similar. I think it goes hand in hand with a lot of Bitcoin critics that try to say, oh, Bitcoin doesn't solve X. And it's like, but it never really had to or wanted to solve X. It solves Y and Z, but why is the technology meant to solve every societal problem all of a sudden, right? The incumbents didn't solve all the problems. So why is Bitcoin expected to solve every single problem? But I think it solves one of the core problems, which, trickles down into solving other problems. We were saying fix the money, fix the world. But I don't know that it'll make addiction, quote unquote, easier in the sense of gaming, because now there's money, so people are going to stick around. I think Konstantin nailed it. Like, there's addiction in gaming right now, and I think there will be when sats are involved. I think the stakes may be higher, so what you may end up seeing is basically there's more at stake when you're quote unquote a game addict and you lose sats rather than just losing a match. So I'm sure there's going to be problems just like there is right now. But I don't know that sats are the reason why it'll dramatically improve or completely ruin that whole scenario, and everyone is now suddenly a game addict. I don't know that it plays that much of a part, at least initially. I think once everything is monetized and there's sats everywhere, possibly, who knows? I don't know that it's infusing sats does not make a gamer an addict, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I will defend both of you as well, because I wouldn't ask the question otherwise. I mean, but otherwise, me answering the question. I mean, I think game addiction exists already, and they just automatically lose money. So at least they can win money. And then for gamblers, like, those gamblers already exist. They might move over to video game based gambling or something, but they're already gambling on other things. Like, it's not like someone who's who's addicted to gambling is going to realize it because your game offers it. They're already addicted to gambling. They're already
agreed. Yeah, for sure, 100%. I think it changes game dynamics, incentives, and all the things. I don't think it's the sole reason why things will change drastically when it comes to gaming addiction.
But it is important from a publisher, developer point of view, right? That you should, if we want to talk about ethical development, right? Like you should, in a way, incorporate that into the structure of whatever games you're producing, right? Is that you should be trying to provide some kind of education, like please don't.
If you're talking about ethical dilemma, then like why don't they care about the ethics of only receiving value into the game? Like they don't care about the players. Game developers don't care about the players right now, especially for the large game studios. So if we're talking
that's
about
what I'm saying, right, Andre?
Yeah.
Is like there's a dark undertone in gaming that is very much attention focused, right? And it's this idea that you want to gather as much attention as possible from your user base. So you're literally trying to get them addicted to your game. That is currently that is the model. The current model is I want you playing all the fucking time.
Yep. Without getting anything out of this other than quote unquote entertainment, right? Let's call that entertainment, if you will, but it's a little more dark than that. But if I agree, but if there's something in return, I think it changes a little bit. And if we're talking about ethics, 100% agree with you that there is this expectation, like, let me create the game that has the perfect structure so that I create the incentive so that people play it all the time. And it's not too dissimilar to the Bitcoin network structure where, it's the incentive structures are aligned such that everyone plays their part and they're drastically penalized if they go out of the the constraints or the consensus or whatever, and you get forked off and you lose your coins or something. So I hope we don't get to that, but I think adding sats to games, it again, it changes dynamics, but I don't know that it will change the view of we want you to play all the time. I think they will still have that, but you will possibly get some value out of it, right?
It's like the Bitcoin energy argument, right? It's like all of a sudden, like you just want to, you want to say like Bitcoin can't use the energy, but you never fucking got mad at any of the other fucking energy usage. And it's like, so you want to say that sats in a game is going to make you more addicted, but meanwhile, everyone who's making a TV series or making a modern video game or making any kind of attention, they're all trying to just drive your attention into whatever they're doing. Yeah. Right.
And to pull off a comment here, it says Quinn Solo said sats inside an RPG totally changes it for me. I'm incentivized to show up and actually complete the tasks, not just murder hobo for funds. I think it's totally true, right? Like if all of a sudden the money that you have in your wallet, like in real life, is the same money that you have in the game, like wouldn't you care so much more about your character? Wouldn't you think twice about like going on a random expedition or like a guild with your friends to like and beat this boss? Because if you lose, you actually lose sats. So you basically care a lot more. Whether that leads to addiction or not is a different matter, but I think it'll stop. It's what I was saying earlier. It'll stop being so okay to die on a CS:GO match because I'll just respawn and that's fine.
Right.
And it'll be like there's actually things on the line here. If I don't play correctly, if I don't make my moves correctly, I get penalized here.
I mean, specifically with gaming, the most important thing is like the status quo is like it's completely cool for you to lose a shit ton of money gaming, but like there's no way for you to make any money.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Agreed. Totally
I mean,
agreed.
based on Khan's fucking side, like he 100% agrees. So I mean, I think this was a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed it. I think this conversation is going to age fucking beautifully. I think people are going to look back on this shit. Like our grandkids are going to look back on this shit. They're going to be like, oh my God, like they were talking about things that were so fucking obvious. It's like it's going to be like those videos where they're like, oh, they're talking about Amazon in '97, and they're like, oh, Bitcoin, Bitcoin, yeah. Bookstore. They're going to be a bookstore online, all this shit,
right?
And that's what this conversation is going to be like. So I really appreciate you both joining us. I think people aren't really, they don't really understand. Like this is the youth are going to be completely. They're gonna be onboarded to sats, and it's gonna be the most natural fucking thing ever. Like they're not even gonna think twice about it. Like it's just gonna be, They love playing games. They're going to play games. They're going to wager sats on those games. They're going to win sats. They're going to lose sats. And sats are just going to quickly become the standard to them.
Exactly.
Before they even have a bank account. They're not going to have a bank account. They're not going to be spending money. They're not going to be taking care of their wife and their kids and shit. They're not going to have a job. They're going to be fucking earning and losing sats before all of that. And that's just in their head is going to become the unit of account. Like this, it unfathomable.
If I totally, and if I can just add some anecdotes here, I think with the release of the bots that we did, they got added to some gaming discords that I've seen, and I think it's in. I don't know how else to explain it. It's so clear when you see these teens and gamers. I don't even know if they're teens, they're Discord users, but you see these gamers. They don't actually really know what sats are, but they know they want them. And they know that they can get them somehow here and there and playing games and so forth. And because they already see the value in like your jewels and your diamonds and your things and your V-Bucks and things, like they understand the notion of unit of accounts. With the bot, you were like, Z send 100, right? And 100 sats to us is like, oh, 100 sats, it's fine, whatever. It's a tiny 0 cents amount. To them, whenever we send 200 sats, it's a gigantic amount because it's 200. So to them, the sats, to a lot of people that we're seeing, is like it already is the unit of account. It's just like, oh my god, you sent me 2,000 sats. This is amazing. So for us, like at Zebedee, we really believe that the first economic interactions that people have are actually in games. It just happens to be with money that is siloed inside of the game economy that doesn't do anything else. But I think the first economic interactions that people have in a real value transfer is through games. Now imagine if that money was actually the money power in the world, right? And that's what we want to see the future of. So I'm very hopeful. Of course, I'm biased. I'm running a company on this industry, but I think
Biased as fuck, bro.
Yeah. I think it's clear. It's what you were saying, like the 1999 whatever Amazon video. I think for us it's clear, and I think once people wake up and realize it, it will already be the reality. It will already be in a bunch of games, and it will already be omnipresent and around everywhere. And I think we're going to see that in the next 5 years. Bitcoin is just going to be virtually everywhere. Like I'm a big believer that the velocity of the Bitcoin quote unquote revolution is even faster than the internet revolution, because I think the Bitcoin revolution is enabled by the internet revolution, which basically allows instantaneous information transfer around the world, whereas when the internet came about, that wasn't the case, right? So I think Bitcoin's velocity is much higher. I think in 5 years time we're going to be looking back at this interview like you're saying and saying, oh my god, these guys were visionaries. But really to us it's very clear. I think it's a very clear proposition here.
Totally agree. However, I think like you said, gaming and Lightning is like this match made in heaven, and it was very hyped in the beginning of Lightning, and now I think it went down a little bit, but I think as soon as there's this one gaming use case for Lightning which will blow everything up, I think it's coming
not priced
soon.
in, bro.
It's not priced in exactly. Just like the next halving, right?
People have no idea. Like all the other cycles were just shitcoiners trying to make shitcoins for gaming,
Yep.
and they were all trying to create all their different shitcoin bullshits. And then this cycle is different. This cycle we have you guys, we have Thunder Games involved. Like we have all these different people that are working towards actually putting sats into games, and I think like people are just not really appreciating it. I just wanted to thank both of you for joining us, and I think it's about time to wrap this up, but I just want to, like, everything you guys are working towards is just I fully wholeheartedly support it. I'm very excited about it. I'm excited to take sats for my future children and my future grandkids. My future grandkids will probably take sats from me when we game,
really
but I will absolutely destroy my children when we game. Do you have any final comments for the freaks before we leave?
Yeah, I start. Thanks for having us, and thanks for always increasing, or I don't know if it's you, but someone always increases your sponsorship in our game. So thank you for that. And yeah, I'm very hyped to be part of this Lightning gaming revolution alongside Andre, Zebedee, Thunder Games, Satoshi's Games. Yeah, I'm very excited for the future and what's to come.
Yeah, for my side, definitely thanks for having us, and I think gaming and Lightning is a very bright future that we have. But specifically, Matt, I think thanks for asking the hard questions. I think someone has to, and if people aren't pressured and aren't challenged, we never move forward. You said it yourself earlier: is the challenges are the innovators. So there are going to be challenges ahead. There are going to be battles and wars, but we will thrive as Bitcoin always has. And we're gonna come out as winners at the end of the tunnel. So again, like thanks for having us here, but in general, thanks for being Caps Lock Odell and asking the questions that people want asked.
Fuck yes, I've been feeling a little bit lowercase lately, but that just kind of infused me. If I could partake in a pun, I just wanted to thank all the freaks for joining us live. You freaks make Bitcoin Tuesdays what it is. And then I also want to thank the freaks that are joining us after the fact. You freaks also make Bitcoin Tuesday what it is in a different way. I want you guys to both follow these guys. We have at Andre Neves, AndreNeves on Twitter. And we have at Sputnik, SPUTN1CK on Twitter.
Fancy.
Both those things are in show notes. I love all you freaks. Just, don't let the no coiners like fuck around with you on this tiny little dip. Right? Like everyone who I'm trying to convince to fucking stack are all like, oh, we're going down to 40. I'm just like, just stack. Just fucking keep stacking. I'm just telling you guys to stack. Just fucking do it. Next week, I don't know who we're going to have yet. So I'm not going to tease who we're going to have yet. But I'm pretty excited for it. Just in general. I really do. There's like a lot of infighting on Twitter right now. I just, I wish the friendly fire was a little bit reduced. I agree with 99% of every single Bitcoiner on Twitter, like real Bitcoiner, not shitcoiner, on Twitter. So I wish that was a little bit reduced, but I'm also a little bit guilty of that. So I do take responsibility there. I hope to see you all at Bitcoin 2021. We will have RHR on Thursday, as is tradition. Marty will never commit to a specific time, unlike Citadel Dispatch, but we're aiming for 3:30 Eastern time. UTC, that should be, oh my God, I'm going to fuck this up. What is 1930? 1830 UTC, I think. Just fucking did that off the top of my head. And so join us for that, and then join us back on Tuesday for 2100 UTC for the next Citadel Dispatch. Let's fucking go. Stay humble, stack sats. I love you all. Thank you to Andre. Thank you to Khan. You guys are fucking killing it. Let's fucking just do this shit. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, Matt.
Cheers.
Yo, freaks, I love you. We're the only ones left. We're going to fucking run this shit. I'm looking forward to doing it along all of you. And I'll see you on Thursday for Rabbit Hole Recap. And I'll see you next Tuesday for Citadel Dispatch 15. If you want to provide suggestions on who the next guest should be, come into our Sphinx Tribe and let us know. Specifically the Citadel Dispatch Sphinx Tribe. And let's have fun with it. Stay humble. Stack sats.